All right, guys. So, welcome to tonight's session. We're going to be talking about how you can use equity that you have in your home and how to go about more real estate, or if you want to have the ability to be able to pay off some bills, pay off some debt, you're going to have an opportunity to do that. And so, we have a special guest tonight. It's Shanae Brown um, from Coach B Financial, that's well versed on this topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. She's built up a nice real estate portfolio, not even using her own money, guys. So that's really the most important aspect tonight that we're going to learn is how do you continue to build onto the assets without using your own money. And that's big because that's what we call in the financial world, that's what we call leverage. And so I'm excited to have Shanae Brown. And I'll be honest with you guys, she's better known as my sister. We grew up together, and I'm just so happy for her to where she's been able to not be able to work full time. She has this real estate that helps supplement her income. And so oftentimes we go to work and we trade our time for dollars, but she used this particular method here to build up her real estate portfolio. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring her on to the call tonight and introduce her to the Let's Win financial community. She's been a big supporter. And so we're just excited to have her on tonight. So, Shanae, if you don't mind, welcome to the Let's Win financial community. You can unmute yourself, and then we will be glad to go ahead and get you started on for tonight. So, everybody, let's welcome Shanae Brown from Coach B Financial to the Let's Win Financial on our awesome topic that we have for tonight.
Thank you, Sherwin. Welcome, everyone. Yes, I am truly excited to be on this call tonight to share my story about buying real estate without using my own money and letting you all know that there is a way that you can do it that is being untold. So it's nice to have a community that we can talk about it. And I'm going to just basically tell you my journey, my story on how I was able to purchase my rental property. And I am super proud of the rental property. My husband and I, we worked together and made it happen. But I'm going to tell you how it happened and try to walk you through the steps. That way, when you get off this call, the wheels will be turning, and so for you to even consider doing this, because this is something that I didn't even consider. But when you have help along the way or words of encouragement, that makes a huge difference. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started and walk you through the steps of what I did. Okay, Shawin, can you hear me and see me?
Loud and clear. Thank you, sis.
Okay. All right. So, how to buy real estate using equity, your equity. I'm going to tell you what that means as we go through the slides and show you my home and the properties that I have. Okay. So, how to buy real estate without using your own money. So this is what I used. I use the Heloc. So what does Heloc mean? It means home equity line of credit. What that means is your primary home, the equity that's in your primary home, and the line of credit. So the line of credit will come from the bank. Basically, you are rewarded with capital from the bank that they will give you for your primary home. And a lot of times we're just sitting on money that we don't even use from our primary home. We're just excited about the equity that we have in it, but you can actually use that money however you want to. A lot of people, take vacations or use it for anything, renovations on their homes, or, starting a business. There's nothing wrong with that. So there are so many ways you can use a home equity line of credit. I just chose to use it for purchasing property. And so that's what it means, home equity line of credit. And that's your primary home. Now, what does the loan to value mean? So basically, this gives you a scenario of what the bank is doing in order for you to get the money. So if the pay down amount, this is an example. If the pay down amount of your primary home is at $200,000 and the appraisal comes back that your home is worth 300,000, then you have $100,000 in equity in your home. So that's $100,000 of your hard-earned money that you're sitting on your primary home. And so before, I used to just be excited that I had that much equity in my home. I never thought to even use that type of money in a home. But I'm going to give you the story of how it became for me to use that money as we move on. So the $100,000 in equity of your home, the bank is willing to give you 80%. They're not going to give you the whole 100%, a whole $100,000. They're going to give you 80% of the equity of the amount of the 100,000, which is $80,000. So this is just an example. So so you have $80,000 that the bank will give you. And I'm like, who does that? We wonder, where can we get that kind of money from to do different things with? Well, it's possible. It's possible to go to the bank and get that kind of money from your primary home. And like I said, we just sit on it. And this is one way we can leverage our money. Hoping people
Are you
understand.
still there, Shanae?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yep, we're listening.
Okay. All right. So what I was saying is, I love giving information, because if I have some information that can help someone else, that's what I'm willing to do. So this is an example of what the bank does and looks at. So some banks do different percentages. Some do 75, some do 80, just depending. You got to do your homework and your research and call around, find out. It doesn't hurt to find out from the bank what they're offering. A lot of times we don't even think to go to the bank to see what they're offering. We don't even know where to begin. So sometimes you have a friend that can tell you, and then you just start your research. All right. So, what documentations do you need in order?
Shanae, I do apologize here. I'm going to mute everybody, but I want to ask, if you are on, if you don't mind muting your phone or your laptop. I'm going to do my best to mute everyone if we can, but please, if you don't mind, just for everyone's learning, let's just go ahead and just mute. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay. So, what documentations do you need in order to receive a home equity line of credit? Um, you need an appraisal of your primary home, which the banker will get that established for you. You need good credit, a good credit score. You need 2 months of pay stubs and a declaration of your primary home insurance, which your banker will call your insurance company and get that information for you. You will fill out an application with the information that they're wanting from you. But it only took about 30 days for the first time that I did it. And I was like, man, this seems too good to be true. Because when you purchase a home, it's so much, I don't want to call it red tape, but it's a lot of information they need. And also, when you refinance, it's almost like starting over again. But when you do a home equity line of credit, which is called a Heloc, you don't need all that. You just need the information that I gave you. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And the banker that I work with, she was like, no, it's really not that much information or documentation you need. And we'll let you know in probably less than 30 days and have the money available for you. And I'm thinking, you have got to be kidding me. But okay, we'll go through the process and see what happens. So like I say, they will get the appraisal for you on it's your primary home. And for me at the time, I keep my credit score in good standings because I like to be prepared. So being prepared when the opportunity comes, you don't have to try to go get it right. It's already right. And then the declaration of homes, I mean, of your insurance, that's not hard for them to pull or get. So pay stubs, credit score, and filling out the application, it's really amazing how easy it is to receive this type of money. Um, so that's the way I feel about how, I don't want to say a blessing, but a blessing. Like less work is good for me, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Once we got approved, or once you get approved, they have a 6 month grace period as far as the interest rates. Different banks do different interest rates. They can give an introduction interest rate for 6 months of like 1.99% or whatever your interest rate is, or based on your credit score, excuse me. So once your credit score is good, you can get the 2% for like 6 months. It just depending on who you call and who you research. And then after the 6 months, it goes up to whatever the agreed upon is, but it's variable, so it can go up and down. So those are some risks you would take because variable, excuse me, and variable scares me. I'm a fixed rate type of girl, and I was just like, I don't know about this. It was a lot of I don't know about this, uncertainties. But that's where the risk comes involved. So right now, I'll give you some more of the story, but my rate is at 4.75, and it is still at variable. And I'm gonna tell you why, because the rates are low. So sometimes they even go lower. So I'm just kind of waiting it out. Now, when the rates start increasing, she said I can get it fixed. So that gave me some, I guess, security of knowing that it doesn't have to stay at variable and go up to 6, 7, 8%. I can say lock it in and I'm fine. It just depending on who you talk to as your banker and making sure you understand the information before you sign the dotted line. All right. So now I'm going to discuss kind of the process of how the money worked and how much I received and what I did to purchase my home. Now, in 2010, I purchased my home for $200,000 in 2010. And it was a 4 bedroom, 3 bath, 2,300 square foot, 1 acre lot. In my heart, I've always wanted to do real estate, but I just didn't know how I could do it. But it was always in my heart, always in my spirit. Even when I was in college, I had college roommates and I charged them rent. I had a mobile home and I charged my roommates rent for the rooms. It was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. So I've always kind of had that in my mind. So, it was a dream of mine to one day own property. I just didn't know how. So then in 2016 goes along, I did a refinance for 30 years to 15 years from 5.1 interest rate to 2.87 interest rate. And I know we're talking about HELOCs, but I'm telling you what your primary home can do for you. Okay. So in 2019, my home value went to 255,000. So I went from 200,000 in 2010, and in 9 years it went to 255. I was excited about it, so that's what it was at that time. And that time in 2019 was when I purchased my first rental property. And when I purchased my first rental property, what happened was I looked on Zillow, dreaming and hoping, and the house popped up. And I said, I want this house, but how can I get it? And so refinancing to get the cash out did not work for me. And I had to figure out another way. And by me figuring out another way, my realtor friend saying, hey, have you ever thought about a HELOC? And I was like, what is a HELOC? And she told me, gave me a banker's name, and I called and, went on from there. And then I was a little leery about it. And the reason I was leery about it, because I was just like, I don't know. And I spoke to my dad, and he says, "Do you ever miss a payment on any of your bills?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Then I know that you're responsible enough to get whatever they give you and be able to pay it back." I said, "Okay." So that's why I went ahead and did the HELOC. I had to have some encouragement. So it wasn't an easy step for me, because this is a big step. And with a big step, sometimes you need a sound ear to make sure that you're making the right decision. Well, the house came on the market, and I said I want it, and I went with the HELOC, and then in the process, the house, I in the process, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't like, I'm ready to get the house. I had to go get the HELOC to get the house. I think it's much easier to get the HELOC than to get the house. So I went ahead and did the HELOC, and
Hey, Shanae, are you still there? I think we lost you.
and I said, if it's for me, I'll get it. So in 2019, my house was valued at 255, and then in 2021, which is this year, it's gone up to 311. So in what, 2 years, that's a big difference in the value of my home now. So your primary home is your home that you leverage to receive the HELOC.
Hey,
So let me
Shanae, I would like to pause you here. I just kind of like to dialogue this here with you because I want to make sure that we drive this point home here that when you bought this house here in 2010 for $200,000, and now I think you say as of today it's worth about $311,000. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Now that's pretty good. I mean, we're talking about this home, we're talking about an asset, we're talking about, here's another thing to this as well, right? What people don't realize is you're actually paying down on this home as well. So this $200,000 that you have it's still not $200,000. It could potentially be as far as what you paid down in the last 10 years. Let's say, for instance, it might be 180,000, maybe 170,000, and now your home is worth $311,000. So the difference of that is what will be your equity, which is pretty good. I just want to make sure that we were driving that point home because that's money that's just sitting there not working. So this is pretty good, sis. Go ahead. I just want to make sure I drive that one home.
No, no, perfectly fine, perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is my first home purchase in 2019. I bought it for $37,000. When I bought this, to me, this is a luxury car, but it's an asset. So it's appreciating instead of depreciating. So I look at my houses that I have now as luxury vehicles, but it's asset, and I'm so excited about it. So my first HELOC, I received $50,000. Now let me tell you, for me, I was so excited. I'm like, I'm gonna get $50,000. And the lady said yes. And I'm very transparent, and I was excited. So I was able to purchase the home for $37,000, leaving me with extra money. But the house needed so much work. It was a HGTV renovation project, and it was my first home. But I wanted it so bad. I said, I'll figure it out. And what the funny thing is, I went to my dad again and I said, Dad, do you think this is a good buy? And he says, if you don't buy, I will. So I'm very competitive. So that just motivated me a little bit more to try to get this house, because I couldn't see him purchasing it and me passing by saying that could have been mine. So, but the good thing is he's that's what brings the competitive spirit out of me. So I was going to do whatever it took for me to get this home. But this is when you use the other people's money. This is what we're talking about. I didn't have to use any of my personal money to purchase this home. And that was a blessing, because now, once I renovated the home, it's a 3 2 1600 square foot. The home value today is at $130,000. $130,000. And the rental income is $1,100. Insurance is 12, and taxes 1244. So where can you go in 2 years and receive equity in that amount?
Hey, Snee, are you still there? I think we lost you. Sorry about that, guys. I think we may have. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
I was just asking if you had any questions.
Yeah, no. So anyone at this particular point, Shanae have indicated where she used her primary home, used equity in that primary home, and now has bought her first real estate property on the $50,000 that she had. At this particular point, and we're going to continue to go on, but we're going to pause here to see if there's any particular question at this particular point on her first rental property.
Yeah, I have a quick question. This is Jose.
Hey, Jose, how's it going, man?
What's up, man? I'm doing good, man. Thank you guys for putting this together. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, brother.
Yeah, my question is, if the insurance on that property is $1,200 a year and the taxes is $1,244, that's $2,400, and the rental income is just $1,100. What's the cash flow on that?
So the cash flow is 300.
Oh, okay. The cash
So
flow.
today, one of the things here, right? And I think we bring this home is that rental income is $1,100 per month. So if you kind of do the calculations on that, you think about $1,100 per month. That's $13,200 for the year. And if you look at that insurance, and if you look at the taxes on this here, you're talking about a little bit over, say for instance, if you just round up and say $2,500. But I think what she's indicating as far as her cash flow will be okay if there's any expenses. She mentioned there was a lot of home renovations to it. But the one big thing about this is with real estate, you have your cash flow and you also have your appreciation. In this particular case, we've seen her example, not just the cash flow, but the appreciation has been her biggest asset in this particular case.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's funny you said that about the numbers. So I was like, do I run the numbers? But I think we will focus in more on the Heloc purposes tonight. But we maybe can do run numbers another night.
Yeah. Now, in the event that you are able to, because I heard you say that you did the Heloc, because I guess at the time you weren't able to do a refi. Would you guys recommend doing a refi if you're able to over a Heloc, or would you recommend a Heloc over a refi?
And that's a good question. Let me tell you why. Because I had that same question. Which one would I choose? Which one is better? I think it depends on how you look at it. See, with the Heloc, if I pay it down, I can go back and use that money again to purchase another home. Exactly. With the refi, it's a loan. So you can't go back and get that money unless you go and do another refi and do it that way, which is called a BRRRR. That's another story in that. So the Heloc works for me. See, I can pay this down and go buy another one, or I can use this money however I want to. So it gives me the freedom to not even just use it for homes. I can use it for whatever. And I like that. I can be my own bank. So yeah. Helocs works for me, but there's nothing wrong with the refi cash out, but this is the route that I had to take at the time.
Okay.
Sinead, Clifton made a good point as far as with the Heloc, it's like a credit card. And what you said, Sinead, as far as when you make a payment on it, it's like you make that payment, now that money that you paid toward, that money now is accessible to you to go buy more real estate. Or in this particular case, Sinead, I know we're talking about real estate, but I'll be honest with you, people use Helocs to pay off bills, to pay off student loans, or to pay off credit cards. Typically you want to pay off an asset, but in this particular case, if you have a credit card that's charging you 20% per year, 25%, on a monthly accruing basis, it's good. It's good to get rid of debt as well in this particular case. If you can, like you, for instance, I think you say your HELOC is 4.7%.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, a HELOC you could do so much with a HELOC. I just chose to do it with rental property because for me it's an asset going up in value. But yes, Shawin mentioned you can do anything. They don't ask you questions on what you're using the money for, or they just don't. It's your money from your home, primary home, that they're letting you borrow. And for me, I'm not paying anything from it because the rent takes care of this for me. So my tenants are paying back this loan for me, and I'm getting the cash flow out of it.
Hey, Sinead, I wanted to have a question here. We have a question here from Cece. She asks, do you have to have a W-2 for a HELOC?
Yes, yes, you do have to have a W-2, or if you have your own business and it's bringing in income, they go by that. But they'll probably need more information as far as how long you've been in business, and just a couple more steps. But I don't think it's, like I say, it's not like doing a refi. Refis is very more in detail, but a HELOC, you won't have to have as much information. But if you have your own business, your income help it will be that you can use.
And so one point to add to that is the 1099, which is the business income. And so instead of using a W-2, if you have a business owner, you can use your 1099 income that you have in order to qualify for the HELOC.
Yes.
Shanae, this is Arlene. Great job. Proud of you.
Arlene.
Great job. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. So any more questions before I move on?
I have a question. My name is Diane. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. My question is, do you recommend trying to get a HELOC from your mortgage company that you already have, or should you go to another one like Lending Tree or some other agency to get it, qualified?
I'll say this. I would suggest you do your homework and what works for you. For me, I did not go with the bank that I have my mortgage with. I went with BB&T and slash SunTrust, but now they're Truett. So it doesn't matter who you go with. You just have to make sure it works for you. The interest rate makes sense. Is the banker personable? That was a big thing for me. So you don't have to go with your mortgage company, but you can go with your mortgage company. You just have to do, like I say, your due diligence and finding out the numbers. If the interest rate works, what are they asking for? I can go to any bank and see what their interest rates are, if they have an introductory interest rate. So I did look around before I chose who I chose.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to move on. This is my second home. I actually bought it this year. And what's funny is I knew I wanted another home, and another home did come out on the market, and it was for $75,000, and I wanted that home. And I had got pre-approved with the refinance, but for some odd reason, it just seemed like it didn't work out again. So I just said, you know what, let me take a step back. I did not get the $75,000 home. And I just, just took a step back and say, okay, what can I do now? And I waited a couple months. And then I thought, well, let me call Miss Anita again and see what can I do. So I called Miss Anita and I said, Miss Anita, I was wondering she was like, are you calling to see if you can increase your HELOC? I was like, yes, I'm calling to see if I can increase my HELOC. And when and I said, well, okay, what do I need to do? And she says, I just need 2 pay stubs. So I was like, okay. My husband pay stub, my pay stub. And I was like, okay. And I sent that in to her, and she went through the process again, the declaration of insurance, because you want to make sure that your insurance haven't changed from your primary home from the first time to the second time. So she needed, and it's been 2 years. So she wanted to, just verify my information again. And then she did another appraisal. I mean, literally, you all, I probably got the money in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks at max. It only took, I was like, goodness gracious, okay. Hey, I like it. I like this. I'll take this. And so the appraisal came back at 311,000. So from in 2 years, that amount had increased what, 60, $70,000 from 255. So this HELOC was $78,000. But what's funny is I went ahead and did the process before. So when a house come available, I'm not trying to get the money. The money is already in place. So this house came up, and I just said, you know what? Um, so many people are going to try to get this house. I'm probably not going to be able to get it, because to me, this was a steal. And I rolled by the house. I called the realtor on the board, the sale sign, and I called the guy and I said, hi, I'm calling about the house. And he told me a little bit about it. And I said, okay. And then I hung up the phone. And I was just like, I'm not going to be able to get this house. So then I said, do you have any I called the guy back. I said, do you have any other houses? And he said, I do. This homeowner has 3 houses. I went and looked at the other 2 houses, and it didn't speak to me. And they cost way more too. Well, not, I mean, they cost more. And I was like, I'm not trying to do that. So then I just kind of left it alone. And then I wound up going to Pensacola, hanging out with my parents. And I couldn't sleep that night. And I woke up and I said, Dad, I said, I don't know what it is, but there's this house that I really like. And he said, call the guy back. And I called the guy back. He said, hey, Miss Brown, how you doing? And I said, sir, you act like you know who I am. And he said, you have a nice personality. And that's another thing, personality and treating people nice and just being a nice person. For me, it's worked out for me in that way. And I'm very grateful and thankful to God for that. And we talked to the guy, had him on speakerphone, and he could tell I was getting advice from my dad. He was like, who is that guy? And I said, it's my dad. And and so um, after that, I said, sir, I want this home. And he says, do you really want this home? I said, I do. He said, I'm going to help you get it. And this is a realtor. And I'm thinking, why would this man want to help me get a home? And I told him, my price that I wanted to try to pay. And he called me back. He said, you need to go higher. And I said, well, how much higher? And he told me how much higher. I was like, who does that? And so he said, okay, well, we'll see. We'll wait, because I have a lot of people calling. I said, okay. And then this man did not know me from Adam and Eve. He did not ask for a pre-approval letter or anything. And I'm thinking, now this man know I have this kind of money to purchase this house. Sometimes people be like, yeah, I want something, but they're not even pre-approved to get it. He didn't ask for anything. He told me the story about the house. He was saying the dad died, the daughter wound up getting the house, and she was just collecting the rent from the renter. And the lady had been living there 10 years paying the rent, and they was going by the house picking up the rent. So I wind up getting this house. I said, wow, because I always say, if it's for me, God, I want this house. And on that Monday, when I went to the house to look inside, because I didn't even look inside, I just saw the outside, and I said, I want it. My husband's like, you got to go inside and see. I said, I'll fix up whatever that needs to be fixed. I just felt it in my heart that this was the house for me. It went by on Monday. The realtor said, it's your house. I said, sir, we haven't even went inside. He said, go check it out. There were other people going inside the house also, but the realtor said, this is your house. So it wound up being my house, but I was already prepared for the house. I already had the money for the house. I just was waiting on God to send me the house. and he sent me a house that I just didn't think I couldn't even get because of the price of $51,000. The HELOC that I received was 78,000. The house is a 1,074 square foot. The lady keeps the house immaculate. She's the only person that lives there. The house is valued at 60,000. I just bought this house in July. The rental income is low because I guess it was agreement. So I'm working on that, praying about that. I wrestle with that. But in time, I see it as an investment. So right now it's not where I want to be, but I know God is going to put it where I need for it to be in order for me to know that this is the right investment for me. But in my heart, my husband and I, we feel that this is the right investment because when we walked through the house and saw how immaculate it was, my husband said, write the check. Now, for us to be able to say, write the check, that's a relief and a blessing in itself. Because how many times that for me, I don't know who can say, write the check. See, the money was already in the bank because I kept my credit good. And I when I went to see Anita, I already know my credit's good. I'm not even worried about my credit because it's in good standards. I keep it there because I'm preparing myself for the next level. So this is my second home. And now, even though I purchased these homes, I still have money in the bank from my HELOC that I can still use if I want to. But that money is there just in case if I need any repairs or anything. I mean, you can use the money however you want to, but I have it there just in case I need it for something or if I want to purchase another home that comes up. So it's actually this HELOC has truly been a blessing. Another thing, my children go through the process with me. Um, I believe in not a lot of times we grow up and we don't tell our children what we're going through, but I want my children to know the process. My first home, my son, first rental property, my young son said, "Ma, I was blind when I came in this home, but now I can see." He said this because we went through the process together. And they're learning and teaching. And my oldest son said, let me hurry up and get in the military because the home was so bad, my first rental property. But it was a blessing for them to see the process. So yes, the HELOC has worked for me and it's using other people's money. And by using other people's money, it's not my money. And now the rental people, my rentals, my tenants are paying this loan back for me. I'm not even paying the HELOC back. They're paying the HELOC back. And the homes are increasing in assets. So right now, if I wanted to sell both those homes, I have $90,000 in equity. I can sell these homes, pay the bank back, and put money in my pocket if that's what I wanted to do. So the thing is, you can't have a closed mind. You have to have an open mind and see other ways. So if I wanted to flip them, I could. But right now, these are my babies, and I know you shouldn't think of homes as your babies, but this is a great accomplishment. When I pass by these homes, I feel accomplished, I feel excited, and I'm feeling like, where's my next deal? So this is how I look at it, and I'm thankful that now I know about the HELOC. Before I had no idea. I was thinking, I'm not using that. That's scary to me. But sometimes you have to take risks to move forward. So I did write a couple notes down, and I do want to read some of it to you, but I'm not going to read all of it because I can keep going and going, but I want to
Hey,
stay fast.
hey, Sinead, do me a favor here. You can stop sharing your screen. I want to let the community be able to see you. We're going to address the questions and answers now that we have to go back and to the PowerPoint slide. We could do that as well. But I do want the community to be able to see who you are, your success, and what you've done. And so, yeah, so good. Well, they can actually see you now. But go ahead and share your notes, and then we're going to address the question and answers as well. So go ahead, sis. Again, everybody, this is my biological sister. She's 5 years older than me. You guys will probably know that we're a family of financial education. I'm so proud of my sister for using this strategy here and building wealth for her and her family. And guys, as I mentioned before, and Sneh, if you don't mind, she do not work a 9 to 5. She allowed this particular income to be able to leverage and supplement into her house. So she don't have to trade time for dollars into her household. So I'm sorry, sis, to put you out on Front Street, but I'm proud of you. Go ahead.
Thank you. That's what we do. I do the same thing. Okay, so some of the notes I wrote down, I wrote down your primary home is a powerful tool. We just got to know how to use it and leverage it. And so I'm glad that he's given me the opportunity to tell you all, because maybe you didn't know. So now you know. I wrote, we're sitting on money that is available to us to do whatever our heart desires. So sometimes we don't even know what we're sitting on. In your primary home, you sitting in your primary home, you can use the money that you need. Um, I do suggest that you keep your debts low, and your credit solid. So for me, I try to keep my debts very low. I try to keep my utilization below 30%. I try to, limit the debt. So I believe when I did purchase this home, I had uh, only debt I had was my primary home. So I do believe in keeping my debts low. Um, this was definitely out of my comfort zone, but the risk is so rewarding. And I did say how proud I am of my own self. You got to be proud of yourself when you accomplish things. So you can look back and say, what I've been through, and now look where I am now. And when you tell yourself, that motivates your own self. As I go through the process, I told you I take my kids along. And it's possible if you believe. This is having a faith of a mustard seed. So it is also makes a difference to see other families and friends doing it, because it gives you the strength and motivation to move forward. And so by having, my brother in it, my dad in it, we can now talk about it. And when we get together, we give each other advice. We're not just talking about, we're not gossiping. We're not, I'm not a shopper, so that's nothing big for me. But talking about real estate, I light up. My mom was like, can you talk about something else? But that's how much I like it. Um, and you have to give each other a word of encouragement, and to take that leap. And sometimes we don't get that. And so that's why Let's Win Financial is a powerful tool to be a community to be a part of, because now we're learning so much. And when I get some information, I go researching and seeing if it makes sense for my family. You don't have to have a lot of money to start this real estate portfolio, because I don't make the money Sherwin made, but you can start off small, and be proud of what you started and just move from there. And that will make the difference in the world. And so I'm going to end on that note. And thank you so much for the opportunity again. I really appreciate it. I love doing this. So thank you again.
Yes, Sinead, thank you for coming to the community. And I want to, there's probably quite a few questions I see here in the chat. We're going to address those. But I'll be honest with you, Sinead, there's a lot of people that's on this call. There's a lot of people in America that's in your situation today, where they are in their house and they have equity built up into the house, because as we've seen this year and over the course of last year with COVID in the real estate market, the way it's at now, where it's very hot, and then the market for real estate has just significantly increased. So the money is just sitting there in the equity in your house, and it's really unemployed. The money is just sitting there because you're not doing nothing with it. But we know what unemployed money does. It doesn't necessarily grow. And so I want to encourage people, if you have a house, if you have money sitting inside of it, right? It only takes one risk taker to really become a millionaire, right? Or to be able to come to separate you and your family. And oftentimes these risks that you take, and these are not just risks, these are calculated risks, because as Sinead mentioned, you want to make sure that you run your numbers. If the numbers make sense, why not take advantage of it? Because oftentimes we don't have resources readily available to us, but those resources are right there in our homes where we're sitting in that we could utilize. As Sinead's mentioned, from the real estate to maybe paying off some of the bills that you have that have high debt in itself. So I want to open up here, Sinead, if you don't mind, to the community to allow them to answer some questions. And I firmly believe that once we start asking questions, then more others will also probably chime in as well. This is something that I've been used to build my real estate portfolio as well. So let's go ahead and take some questions here. Shanae is well averse, well experienced, and let's go ahead and take some questions on here. All right, so let me see here. Let's kind of look in the chat and see if we could take some questions here. Now, Alicia did have a question here. Shanae, I do want to ask you here. Her question was, does this affect your credit score? Is it a hard query? Is it a soft query on your credit score when this happens?
So yes, it is. It does affect your credit. And when it affected my credit, I was like, OMG. But it only affected my credit for probably a month or so. It wasn't even to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me forever to get back where I need to be. So no, yes, it affects your credit, but no, it doesn't last but a month or two, which is kind of weird. But no, it didn't affect my credit to the point where I can't go buy something else.
Awesome, awesome. All right, and so we're gonna ask everyone if you have any other questions. Open up your mic. Oh, we got Odessa here. How much do you spend on average for repair and maintenance? That's a very good question because with real estate, you got to go into, if you're gonna buy real estate, this has to be an expectation to at least have some monthly maintenance. But Chanel, on your average on your homes, how much do you spend for repair and maintenance?
That's a good question. I mean, a good one, because let me tell you, you will have some repairs. But the that what you could do is, let me make this suggestion. You could have you that's part of the rent that you receive a month. So you take out money for that. So whenever you do have a problem, you already have the money allocated for repairs. But the funny thing is, if you set your properties up right, you won't have repairs a minimum. So honestly, because you can go 6 months without a repair, or you can go every month with a repair. So I would say probably $300 a month. I would put to aside. I would put to aside $300 a month, and that's what, 3,600 a year if my calculations are right. So that means whenever you have a repair needed, the money is already allocated for it. So I can't really pinpoint exactly how much. But like I say, it just depends. Now, when my first tenant moved in, my first rental property, that looked like it was a repair every month. I used to hate to say anything about the house as far as there's nothing wrong with it this month, because as soon as I said there's nothing wrong with it, she calls. It's like, what in the world? So I try not to say anything, because as soon as you say something, there's a repair. So I'll say it just depends. Plumbing, it could be a plumbing issue. So my plumber is expensive, and he actually is my neighbor, but that's another story. But he's good at what he do. So he's averaging about $300 a repair, but it's far few in between. When my second property, I sat down with her. I said, "What repairs do you need?" I paid $500 for repairs, and she doesn't call. So it just depends on your property. How well is it maintained? How well do they not tear it up? Shawin maybe can answer because he has repairs and rental. Okay. So I'll move on to the next question, but hopefully that answers your question. There's a question: how can you take the information and apply it to today's market? Let's see, today's versus market with real estate being so inflated. I want to make sure I answer this correctly. So with that being said, how can you take this information and apply it to today's market? You just have to be prepared. And if you're prepared, and you just have to literally watch whatever real estate, like I look at Zillow every day just in case something pops up. But there are so many ways you can be creative. If you see a house, you can uh, send a letter to the owner. You can knock on the owner's door. I've done that. My dad and I was riding around and we went and knocked on the owner's door, even though they didn't answer. So if you see something, go for it. Don't wait for it to come to you. You sometimes got to go out and get it. But like I said, I look on Zillow every day and they say it's hard to find a house on Zillow because the person buys it the next day. You just have to be ready for it and go for it. And if it's for you, you'll get it. Any other questions?
I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right, yeah, this is Patrick. I just wanted to ask a question. So when you first started going through the process, I know you got to crunch the numbers and everything, but did you ever consider, like, as far as maybe trying to put it as a down payment versus cash? Or did you figure out that buying something cash was better than putting it as a down payment and purchasing something that way?
I hear what you're saying, but I think for me at the time, the cash worked better for me. But if you do the like refi cash, what is it? Cash out refi, you can put the 20% down. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm actually talking when you purchasing a property versus buying a cash property or using the HELOC money to actually put down maybe the 20% on the investment property. So did you figure out that maybe doing the cash was better as far as just running the numbers?
Oh, let me tell you why. Because cash is king, and when you're bidding for a home and you say you paying cash, they're gonna get your home over. I mean, they're gonna take your cash over someone that has to finance it. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Because if you're financing it, that means you got to go get the pre-approval. You got to go through the process. But when you got cash, they say, okay, we'll take that one. Trust me, cash is king when it comes to paying cash on a home that you truly want over financing it, especially with the amounts that I purchased my home for. And I asked my realtor, I said, how was I able to get this home? And they said, because you paid with cash.
Hey Pat, you know what? So let me add on to that because I think that's a very good question too. Because sometimes people may not want to use a HELOC or maybe a cash out refinance, but I like to use this example here, right? So if you're going to buy a house, in particular like a real estate property where the bank will want for you to put down 20%, right? So for number's sake, if you buy a house at $100,000, right? That's $20,000 of your own money that you have to put into this. But if you could leverage not your own money and then have your actual tenants pay down on this asset, that's why real estate to me is very important and powerful because now you're using leverage to where you're actually building assets and you're not even using any of your own money. So if we buy stocks, right, in order to buy stocks, we have to use our own money. If we buy land, we have to use our own money. If we, a business, we have to go through and get a business loan in itself. It's kind of sort of like real estate. But in this particular case, that's why I like these two reasons with the HELOC and the cash out refinance, because now you're using leverage to be able to build assets. And let me just say this, Sinead, I don't really mean to steal your thunder, right? But when it comes to real estate, there's 5 different type of things that comes with real estate. First, you have cash flow. If you got a pen or you got a paper, I want you to write this down. There's 5 things that happens with Sinead or anybody that buys real estate. Here's the 5 things that happen with real estate. You have cash flow that comes in every single month. Sinead mentioned that. The second aspect to this is you have appreciation, where she bought these particular properties, and we've seen in the real estate market over the last 2 years is really inflated. The third piece to this is you have depreciation, right? So anything that comes with this here, Sinead have to replace her refrigerator, she have to replace her roof. Now she's able to depreciate this, right? Taxes is the fourth aspect to this. Taxes is to the point where we go to our jobs and we work a 9 to 5 and we have to pay income taxes on the money that we make. But the amount of money that Sinead's making in her rental income, she don't have to pay any taxes on her rental income because that's all exempted when you're a real estate investor. And the fifth piece of this is, as Sinead mentioned, that is generational. So she had these houses in her son's name. When it gets older, the months continue to increase. All right, the mortgage still stay the same. The appreciation continues to go up. And now, even when Shanae, for instance, if she was to leave this world and die, this is something that continues to outlive her. That's why I encourage you guys, if you got grandmama house, right, that you inherited, you don't sell grandmama house, because grandmama house 30, 40 years ago is not today's price, as DJ Khaled would say. That's an asset that you want to continue to keep holding on. It might be a pain, it might be a headache if you're dealing with toilets, if you're dealing with tenants. But guys, let me just say this here. At the end of the day, real estate, they're not building no more land. I understand that. They're not building no more land. So that value in that real estate is going to continue to increase. That's why it's important for us to say, okay, look, I can use either my own cash, or I can use somebody else much money, somebody else money, which is the bank money, in order to use this asset. So I don't know if Patrick, maybe if that kind of bring it home or maybe answer your question. Shanae, you did a good job in answering that as well. But that's why I'm a big proponent of, I don't want to use my own money, because Shanae mentioned cash is king. I want to use somebody else's money, because Pat, let me say this right here, and I'll be done, Shanae. If you go and put right now $10,000, or not even $10,000, if you go and put $1,000 in your bank account right now in your savings account with your bank, and you turn around tomorrow and you try to take money out that bank, right? That bank is going to give you less than 1%. But that bank is going to turn around and they use that $1,000, and now they're going to charge you 20% to go get a credit card monthly. They're going to charge you anywhere from 3 to 5% if you want to go get a loan on a mortgage, right? So we got to be able to think like a bank and say, okay, look, how can we use other people's money in order to build assets? Because that's the bank. That's how they're in business. That's how they make money in itself. But we got to think in that mindset, because the one thing I want you guys to think, and I promise this is going to be the last thing I say, we can't be worried about today. We got to be worried about tomorrow. And my mind frame is not even worried about tomorrow, but I'm thinking about, I got 3 boys. I'm not worried about their sons or their daughters. I'm planning for my grandkids and their grandchildren and their grandchildren. If we start thinking like that, then our mind frame is for us when we go to the store and we go to the malls now, we're not thinking about buying liabilities. We're thinking about assets and saying, okay, look, how do we build for our future generation? Because I posted on my social media early in the week, there's a wealth gap. There's a stark difference where 1 out of 7 Caucasians is a millionaire, where you have 1 out of 50 African Americans is a millionaire. And the primary reason for that is because of the lack of financial education and being not able to use what we're talking about tonight, which is leverage, being able to use other people's money in order to build wealth and build assets. So I get off my soapbox on that, Shanae, but that's a very good question that Pat brought up, and I want to make sure that I brought that home. But let's just open up for more dialogue and good questions, because that's a very good question, Pat.
Hey, Sherwin.
Yeah, go ahead, Costa.
Yeah, I have a question. So I know some people, when they're investing in real estate, there's a strategy going around about the buy, I think it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do a HELOC, is it possible to refinance just that investment property and then leverage future investment properties off of that, or do you have to continue to increase your HELOC?
Go ahead, Shanae.
Okay, so with that being said, you cannot, let me make sure I answer this right. So you can't get a HELOC off your rental property. I think that's a different route you have to take. And you're talking about the burst strategy, like buy, renovate, whatever it is. But that would be like more of the cash out refinance, where you put the 20% down in your rental property, and then when you have the money, then your rental property grows into an asset, then you do a refi cash out with that rental property. So for HELOC, it works different. So it's a different type of leverage. So these are 2 separate ones. So you can't use the HELOC to do for your rental property. You have to keep those separate. So you have to do what I just said. you have to do the cash out refinance on your rental property, and then, put the 20% down and then move on to the next rental property, put the 20% down and do it that way. But with the HELOC, you can't do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Shanae, I think another question kind of came up a little bit earlier, right? It's like, what's ideally, when would you use a cash out refinance, and then when would you use a HELOC? Ideally, if you have a short-term goal or you have a short-term strategy for to buy an asset or buy a liability or to pay something down, the HELOC is really probably most advantageous way if it has a short-term goal per se, right? But if you have a long-term goal where you want to buy real estate and we want to buy and hold, then the cash out refinance method is probably the better bet, because now you're locked into the loan in itself. But that's for a different night, a different day, where we actually talk about the cash out refinance. It's similar really to the HELOC. It's just you're locked into the loan, whereas what Clifton was saying a little bit earlier tonight in the chat, the HELOC is more like a credit card. You got a $5,000 balance and you put $5,000 on, you make $1,000 payment. Now you got $4,000 accessibility. That's what Shanae, she had a $50,000 HELOC. And the more and more that she continued to make payments on that HELOC, that's the more money that she have to her purchasing power, either buy real estate or pay down some bills in itself. All right. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Clifton. You have two questions here. Go ahead. Unmute if you don't mind.
What part of the country are you located? I like those numbers.
Shanae, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm actually in Quincy, Florida. It's like 20 minutes from Tallahassee, Florida.
Got it. I'm gonna look at the public record database.
We have another question. It says we have 2 rental properties, but we would like to purchase a commercial property. How do you suggest we go about trying to acquire it?
Well, since I'm not in the commercial realm yet, that's not there on that level, so I won't be able to answer that. Maybe Shawin can assist you with that.
Yeah. So we have 2 rental properties, but we would like to purchase commercial property. Now, commercial lending and residential lending is a lot different in regards to what type of loan that you get. You can actually probably leverage your rental properties, those 2 rental properties that you have, as far as the equity that you're building into those. And you can use some equity out of those. Now, you're probably not, like Shanae mentioned earlier, if you use your primary home, you can use what we call a 80% loan to value. So in her example, she had $100,000 of equity. And then if you have an 80% loan to value, you can use 80% of your primary home. But with the rental income, the bank does not allow you to have so much of a loan to value ratio, because that rental home, they look at that as more so of a risk. Like, you're not going to be standing out home as your primary home. So your loan to value might be 50%, but you can actually leverage those 2 rental properties and the equity that you have into them. And you can say, for instance, maybe take 40% out of each one of them and then go and buy a commercial property in itself. When we talk about commercial property, that's whether if you have like a quadplex, 4 units or more, if we're buying a commercial building with different tenants inside of it, things of that nature. iPhone 12 Pro, I don't see a name to that. Who is that? So I can just make sure who this is for my purposes.
It's Katrina.
Katrina, all right, good stuff, good stuff. Katrina's out of good state of Alabama. We know the real estate there in comparison to Florida or maybe California is very affordable. So yes, commercial real estate, that's how I would leverage it if I had those 2 properties.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. And so Kenya asked, is a credit check required while searching for the right bank? And do you recommend a bank over a credit union?
I think either would be good. But what I wouldn't do is have different banks run my credit, trying to figure out which one you want to use. Whichever one you want to use, that's the one you go with. So did I answer your question, or?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Shanae, you know what? So someone just texted me, right? I'm not gonna put nobody's name out, right? But this is a prime example, guys, of what we talking about tonight. Someone that's on this call tonight, they messaged me and said, okay, our home value is $339,000, right? And their loan balance is $184,000, right? So if we had to do the numbers of 339,000, 184,000, so for my math wizards that's on this call tonight, I think my twin brother he's an engineer, so he's good in math, right? If I'm taking 339,000, it gives me actually the actual estimated equity is $154,000 right here on the screenshot they sent me. Now, guys, this is a prime example. This is $154,000. If they didn't do nothing else, it's just sitting there, not doing nothing. It's unemployed. So how do you take this $154,000 and now make it work for you? Because, and this is not even your money, right? This is money that you really have in your house, but how do you put it to work for you? So you kind of want to allude on that because this primary example with you, right? This is person here, this is a primary home. They got $154,000 in equity. What would you do in this particular case?
Buy real estate. I would go and buy real estate. I would be researching, trying to figure out how can I buy real estate.
Now, Sinead, let me ask you just another question here, all right? So we've been hitting on real estate, right? But we got some people on here, right? Let's say, for instance, that they need to pay off debt, for instance, right? So you got somebody in, say, maybe $20,000, $30,000 in credit card debt, and they have $154,000 in home equity, right? How would you is that something that you probably would prefer doing? Because if they have 154,000, let's say, for instance, the bank give you so they can give you 80% of that 154,000, right? So you can actually use that to pay down your debt because if you think about it, if you're paying, I don't know, 20% per month, accruing on a monthly basis, and your Heloc, you say you're paying about 4.7%.
Yes.
So that's easy math. 20 minus 4%. I mean, that's 16% that you're saving.
Yeah, you just have to go through the process of getting the money. Also, you don't have to take the whole $150,000. You can take whatever you want. They'll say, "How much do you want?" And you tell them how much you want. So you don't have to feel like you got to get all of it. You can just get the money to pay down the debt if you wanted to do that way.
Yeah, but actually, I think the biggest thing is in that example as far as paying down debt, you're still going to be paying debt. But if you use the HELOC with the real estate, now you have somebody else paying your debt versus yourself. But the number's still working itself for us the interest that you pay, whether 20% or 44% that we used in that example. So, yeah. All right, guys. We're going to take just a few more questions. This has been awesome, Sinead. You've done a great job, great example of being able to just to show people man, I mean, not use your own money, but to leverage it and build real estate, build assets. So we thank you so much. Does anybody else have any few questions before we close out tonight?
I didn't have a question, but I just had a quick comment. I just wanted to say that I really commend you guys and applaud you guys for taking the time out of your evenings, where it's 9 p.m. here on the East Coast, and you guys could be doing anything else, spending time with your families, but you're here educating everyone else. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time out and doing what you're doing. I've been following you closely, Sherwin, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your sister. I'm proud of the whole family, man, and keep doing your thing. I'm right on your tail, brother.
All right, awesome. Now, for everyone that's on this call tonight, I just got some chills here because as you guys see Jose here, his picture, Jose has a great story, good brother of mine, brother in Christ, and we go to church together. And Jose is a motivational speaker. So if you guys have any opportunities where you need a motivational speaker at your church, at your job, in your organizations where you're located at. I mean, Jose is a motivational speaker that travels all over the world. And you will see his picture here, right? And so, of course, his physical ailment, you will see that. But Jose does not allow that to stop him in what he does. And that's a great example and testament for us today. As far as we shouldn't let whatever's in front of us limit us in what we could do, right? Our mindset and our ability as far as with God leading and charging us, that's who the head of our life and carry us. And Jose is a primary example of that. I'll see You guys got to follow Jose. Jose, what's your Instagram handle? So the people tonight, how they can follow you, because they gotta hear your story, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's at Jose Inspires.
Hey,
I'll
Jose,
drop it in. I'll
put that
drop
in
it
the
in the
chat.
chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Man, I'm
Thank you,
telling
man.
you guys, we can talk about this all day. If you follow Jose and his story and see his day-to-day life, you will wake up guys inspired, man. Jose inspired me. So God knows, man. I love you, brother. Continue to keep doing what you're doing.
Love you too,
And
man. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're
for the
welcome. Thank you too.
All right, guys. Any more questions before we close out tonight? Okay. All right, guys. This has been good. Thank you guys for joining in. If you like more information about the HELOC or the cash out refinance, Shanae, if you don't mind, if you could provide your contact information in the chat. We're going to also provide it on the Let's Win Financial Group. Shanae's contact information, well experienced in it. And that's one thing, guys. It's about getting skin in the game. And so Shanae has well-dealt experience into this particular process of leveraging her real estate in order to build assets in itself. So as always, guys, be well, be blessed. And as always, let's continue to win, guys. Have a blessed night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.